So here it is, Friday afternoon. So the RV park is getting a little more crowded with people. So as I've said, this RV park has a lot more permanent residents than I've seen in a lot of places, or permanent people set up permanent shop here. But that doesn't mean they actually live here. They just come here. Basically, this is their little vacation homes. So we've been here a couple of days during the weekdays and nobody has been here. But now that it is Friday afternoon, everybody seems to be rolling on in. Now, one of the interesting things with this particular RV park, and I was trying to figure out like what is different about this RV park than many of the RV parks that I've been to, even with permanent residents, is how many of the sheds that they have here. Like, it's really weird. Like, not just the awnings, like that's new. Like a lot of RV parks, they'll have stairs or little porches. Here they have like these covered porches, which is different. But then also the sheds. I have not seen this many sheds before in my life at an RV park. But I guess there's a lot more RV parks to go to in the world. Now, I was looking at it. I was trying to figure out how much these things cost for like a year. Since I was telling you folks, again, you can rent these things by the day, by the week, by the month, or by the year. And again, to tell you how affordable it can be, at least once you already own your travel trailer, is it's actually $2,300 per year for a spot. So basically you come here, you park your trailer, and then you get to do whatever you want with it. It's $2,300 a year. That comes with water, sewer. The electricity is metered, but you know, depending on how much you use it, I mean, it's a little box. It's a little box that you're not in all the time. So from an electric standpoint, it shouldn't be bad. But yeah, $2,300 a year, which really, and again, to give you a hint about how reasonable that is, to be honest with you, so right in the Baltimore area, in order to store our travel trailer, so we just simply park it. Right, it's just it's like a 50-foot parking space, and that costs us like $110 a month, which comes out, what is that, $1,300 or so per year. So literally for like $900 more or $1,000 more, you can actually park it in a place where you can use it. So again, like I say, overall one of those things, not too bad. You know, a lot of people want the vacation homes, and you know, if you can't afford a full-fledged vacation home, you can definitely pick up a little cheap travel trailer, plunk it down, and have your little piece of paradise. And again, I mean, it depends on where you what RV park you go to, but this place is really nice. And again, I know like from the video it may seem a little weird, but just, you know, weird is all about how used to something you are. So the more used to things you get, the less they seem weird. And so I remember it was really funny when my wife said, like one day she was like, wow, like we went to some RV park and she's like, this is a really pretty RV park. And then she stopped for a second and went, wow, I never thought I would say an RV park was pretty. But again, you get used to it. I mean, this may seem like really weird to you, but like having been on the road as much as we have, like that now seems normal. That seems like a normal house. Oh yeah, of course you live in that, right? So anyway, this comes to about $2,300 a year. So again, definitely something that folks should look at, because again, it's a nice little lifestyle. You know, kids running around, people are relaxed. It's good. And like I say, here, I mean, this backs right onto right onto a river. I guess it's a creek. It's a really big creek. I mean, it's a creek that's big enough to be fishing in. Backs onto a rail trail. Again, here, the Laurel Highlands. There's all kinds of hiking and things to do within a rather short area. So definitely something to take a look at. So we are going to go over to the old RV park, because there are places even more built up than I've seen before. So we're going to go over there. So this place, like I say, is rather big. It is a very, very large RV park, especially since it doesn't have any weird, it doesn't have any like weird geographic feature in the middle. So I've seen bigger RV parks, but they'll have like a lake in the middle or a swamp in the middle that basically they're physically bigger, but there's a reason why you can't use the middle area. This is one where no, it's all used. It's just one really big ass place. So I have no idea how many RVs and travel trailers can fit here, but it must be a lot. It must be a lot. Oh well, I shouldn't take too much pictures of the kids. That always creeps out the adults. Why are you taking pictures of my kids? I'm not taking pictures of your kids. I'm taking pictures of the tree, and your kid happened to wander into it. Well, yep. This is the life. This is the life. I really like this. This is good. We are getting on we were getting into the flow I was hoping for when we got to Thailand. So it was a bit like snarky and all that, like before I went off traveling to Thailand, talking about how cool it would be. And Thailand did not really go. Thailand trip did not go how I thought it would go. 105, you know, the hottest heat wave in 65 years, cellulitis, horrible food poisoning, you know, heat rash, like going all the way up to my armpits. That just did not go how I wanted the trip to go. But I can say now that we're back on the road again, this is paradise. This is absolutely and utterly wonderful. So what's going on? What's going on before we get into the main topic? It was very good. Had a Silicon Discourse meeting yesterday with somebody that actually drove 5 hours to meet me. So again, I have no idea why anybody would drive 5 hours to meet me, but this person drove 5 hours one way to meet me. So we are all the way, we're about an hour outside of Pittsburgh, basically about an hour due south of Pittsburgh. This person came all the way from Delaware. Took 5 hours, drove here for 7 o'clock, talked with me for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I highly doubt it was 2 hours. And then drove 5 hours back, which I just find to be absolutely and utterly just redonkulous. I just can't even get my mind around that. And again, that's a funny thing. Like when people talk about my ego, they're like, oh, your ego is so big. And I'm like, well, you know, I do have people like literally driving 5 hours one way to have a conversation with me. I mean, like, okay, yeah, maybe I can tone it down a bit every once in a while. But realistically, how many people can say they have people driving 5 hours one way just to have like an hour and a half conversation with them? I was a little worried about that, to be honest with you. I was a little worried about how that particular meeting before it happened, just because, as I always say, like, I don't know what they think they're gonna get out of me for driving 5 hours, but it actually went very well. Had a nice, good little hour and a half conversation about the issues that he was having, and he said it was good. He said it was an eye-opening experience. So there you go. I don't think I would drive 5 hours to see myself, but hey, I guess apparently it works out well for other people. So that was interesting yesterday. The other big news is we're finally making a little bit of money off this channel. So we got our first $50 per month patron, like today. I have no idea. Again, like, what? Awesome. So we have our first $50 per month patron. So that brings up our Patreon campaign up to $142 per month. And I'm very happy to say our YouTube ad revenue is up to $150 a month. So we're just $8 per month shy of actually being able to pay for coffee money. So that makes me happy. I have this old video way back when talking about like how much money you need to make in order to do anything. And so I always have this statement about coffee money, where I talk about it like back when I was first creating videos, and I would go out to Starbucks twice a day. And so Starbucks might cost me $10 a day. And so essentially I was saying, unless I make $300 a month, I don't even care. Like $300 a month is the first amount of money where I even start to care about, because essentially that pays me back for the coffee that I'm drinking. So I'm very happy to say we're almost to hit that mark overall. We're almost to hit the mark of $300 a month, so I can say that I'm officially making enough to pay for my coffee. So that's a good thing. A couple of people said I need to talk about Patreon more. So if you didn't know, I had a Patreon campaign. I do have a Patreon campaign. If you look below the video, you can go and you can find the Patreon campaign and chip in a couple of bucks. Every once in a while, like in the beginning, like a lot of people chipped in money. And then since then, it's been a very, very slow progress. But again, as I say, this is a business for me. I do want to talk and yabber into a camera, but I do have to pay the bills at the end of the day. And I do have a wife that gives me the stink eye. Because, she expects, bills to get paid. So, if you like what I am doing here, if you like what I'm doing, do think about the Patreon campaign, because it really, really does matter. Again, I'm not one of these people, although people think I'm just an egotistical SOB. The reality is if I didn't think that this could turn into a business, I wouldn't do it. So it's kind of one of those things. If I make money doing this, then I will continue to do it. And if I don't make money doing this, at some point I'll stop. Just because I'm making money right now. This is the investment. This is the build stage. You know what I'm saying? So very, very, very happy with that. Oh, and so I got some interesting responses yesterday from my adoption video, and not interested in adopting. And I figured that we would use that as a jumping off point for the question of where's the win? Where's the win? Because a lot of people. So I tell you folks, again, I always talk about honesty, not necessarily transparency. And so basically I try to be honest with the things that I say, but it's not necessarily transparent. So what does that mean? So honesty means that when I explain something, I try to be as honest about what I'm explaining as possible. Transparency means you get to see everything around it, right? So like honesty is explaining to you how much money I make off of this YouTube channel. I am completely honest when I say, as the current 28-day total is like $150.43, right? That is honesty. Transparency is all the places I earn my money from, which you don't need to know about, right? You might be like, what? No, don't worry about it, right? And so with this YouTube channel, I talk about a lot of things, and I try to be honest. I try to be honest as much as possible, just to put things, specific concepts, into context. So again, like I say, I can talk about, this YouTube channel makes $150 per month. I can talk about Eli the Computer Guy Live channel makes $750 per month, and then I can say the Eli the Computer Guy channel, and my wife has asked me to just gloss that one over, and basically, like I say, that pays the mortgage, that pays the bills, it does well. And so being honest that way, it can give you context, it can give you an idea if you decide to start a YouTube channel, what the different values of YouTube channels are. So you can look at this channel, and you can go, oh, okay, so he's making $150 a month off of ad revenue. So he has, like, at this point, 6,000 subscribers, he gets like 3,000 views per day, he makes $150 a month. Okay, that gives you an idea. And then you go over to Eli Computer Guy Live channel, and you can see the type of content I do there, and you go, okay, well, that's 75,000 subscribers with 10,000 views per day, about 10,000 views per day. And on a little more technical topics, and that makes like $750 per month. And then you look over and you look at Eli the Computer Guy, and you go, okay, well, that's got 700,000 subscribers, makes about 40,000 views per day, and that makes enough to pay the bills. And it can start to give you an idea of what's going on. And again, like I say, with things like subscribers and views and all that kind of stuff, you can see that this has 6,000 subscribers and yet gets 3,000 views per day. Whereas Eli Computer Guy Live has 75,000 subscribers and only gets 10,000 views per day, right? So what is that? 12 times the number of subscribers, and yet only 3 times the views. And then you look at Eli the Computer Guy, 700,000 subscribers. So like compared to this, that's 100. Is that right? Yeah, it's like 100 and some odd times the number of subscribers. And yet, if you look at the view count, it's only somewhere between 10 to 15 times the number of views. And so again, by being honest in that way, it can give you an idea of what these different things are. So if you're trying to do a YouTube channel, you can get an idea of how all that works. But then again, like I say, transparency goes into what is my investment strategy, other income streams and all that kind of stuff. And the problem that you run into is a lot of people just don't know when to call it a day. And they don't know when to take the honesty and take the lesson that is trying to be taught, and they try to keep poking into other things that just frankly are not their business, not for them to be worried about, because it's not the context of what I'm trying to explain in these videos. There are things I try to explain in these videos and things that I don't try to explain to these videos, right? And so one of the things and why this comes up is, so I've been talking a lot about, with the whole fail normal thing, basically the whole idea of fail normal, the whole concept with fail normal is the idea, like I say, I've become very professionally successful, I've become internationally known, whether or not you want to define that as famous or not, yada, yada, yada. My wife and I thought we were going onto a certain track, and then it ended up not going the way we thought. Again, as I talked about, that, kids were basically off the table. Now, here's the thing, as a normal person, The issue is you really don't want to talk about this a lot. You know, like kids is like a personal thing, right? That's something that, you know, when you start talking about kids, you've got all this personal stuff, this, that, and the other thing. And so when you're talking with somebody and they say that, you know, well, kids are off the table, you know, can't have kids. The thing is that realistically, at the end of the day, you just want the conversation to be over at that point. Again, if I say, my wife and I realize we can't have kids, I don't really want to go into it. You know, I don't want to have a big conversation. I don't want to talk with people. I don't want to go through all this hoopla, because basically it's not, let's wander this way. It's not anybody's business, but mine and my wife's. Again, look at all these sheds. There's so many sheds here. And so one of the interesting things is, so it's like you're sitting there and you're having a conversation and somebody talks about, you know, how they got to where they are. So again, how we can travel, why we can do the things that we can do, is because we realized that we weren't going to have kids. Well, the problem is then people, like I say, they won't just take a hint. They won't just shut up. And again, this question of, like I say, this whole idea of like, well, have you thought about adoption? Now, the question that I want you folks to be thinking about before you even ask that kind of question is how is the person on the other side supposed to answer that, right? So if they throw out basically a throwaway answer, basically an answer to something that's obviously where they don't want to go forward with it, and then you throw out something as open-ended as, well, have you thought about adoption? The question then becomes, how am I really supposed to answer that question? And the problem that you run into if you're somebody like me is that the person on their side will never really accept the answer that you try to give them, right? Because basically it's like, well, you know, as I talked about yesterday, I don't connect with people that aren't my blood. In the same way, again, my brain works however my brain works. I'm not quibbling about how my brain works. I don't really care. I'm pretty happy in life. Again, am I ecstatic all the time? No. But I feel like, you know, because that's what, you know, especially being Buddhist, everybody's like, oh, are you happy all the time? It's like, no, it's not that I'm happy all the time. I just feel pretty balanced. I have my ups, I have my downs, and I have quite a bit of middles. And I figure as long as, again, like, if you have too many downs, you got to worry about it. And frankly, if you have too many ups, you got to worry about it. You get your ups, your downs in the middle. There was a quote I always liked. Take everything in moderation, including moderation, right? And so we're trucking along and doing fine. Oh, where was I? This whole thing. But anyways, so the thing is, if I throw out this thing, like, no, you know, we can't have kids. And then somebody throws out the whole adoption thing. Oh, yeah, that's, you know, how the brain works. That's the thing, is it's like, how am I supposed to answer that in order to get out of this conversation without feeling like a dipshit, right? Because like I say, for me, again, like I say, I don't connect with people the way that other people connect. This is something that I understand. This is something that I grasp. This is something I don't really care about. Again, my life works for me. My wife works for my wife. Again, we're relatively happy, right? But the thing is, if I say something like that, the problem that you run into in life is that people will not accept that. Because again, they're not really asking this question to be compassionate. They're not asking this question because they care. They're asking this question because they're egotistical prats. Because what they really want to do is they want to force their viewpoint on you. So you know, one of the comments somebody left yesterday is I talked about this whole thing about I am connected to people that I have a blood relationship in a different way than I'm connected to people that I don't have a blood relationship with. And again, I've had a lot of relationships in my life. I've had a lot of people, you know, and so I can say this is how it is. And then what the interesting part is you start having people argue about that type of thing. Well, no, it's not really blood. That's just a cop out, or that's just this, or that's just the other thing. And then like I say, for me, then what am I supposed to say, right? So we start having a conversation. And you're like, oh, hey, why are you able to do all these things? And I say, well, I've been successful in this and that and the other thing. And, you know, frankly, you know, my wife and I can't have kids. And then it's like, and then I just throw it off. And it's like, okay, let's talk about sports, or let's talk about RVs, or let's talk about hiking, or let's talk about, right? This is not a conversation that's any of your business, to be honest with you. Me and having kids is zero business. Zero, right? But then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, have you thought about adoption? And that's the thing. Is the question I have for you is, where is the win? I'll talk about this more, but where is the win? So if you throw out a question like, have you thought about adoption? The question I have for you is, have you thought about where the hell this conversation can go or will go? And have you thought about how this conversation ends up going so that the other party doesn't think you're a complete and utter asshole? Right? Because that's the thing. Like I say, if I say, you know, we can't have kids, and then you throw back, well, what about adoption? Again, what am I supposed to say with this? What am I supposed to say? Because again, like I said, when you start talking about adoption, especially like I said, when you're doing adoption, I mean, there's a lot of decisions there, there's thoughts there, there's rules and regulations that are there. Again, like what if you're talking with somebody and, I don't know, they were 21 years old and slept with a 17-year-old, and so now they're a registered sex offender, right? I mean, as weird as it is with our society, they could have a kid biologically, but they can't just go out and adopt one. And so again, are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for the person saying, yeah, well, I'm a registered sex offender? Or are you prepared for somebody saying, I'm not psychologically stable? Or are you prepared for somebody saying that we don't have the financial wherewithal to do it? Are you prepared for any of the real answers that you may get? Or are you just trying to find some dumbass, cheap little feel-good moment, right? That person, Eli the computer guy, said that he couldn't have kids. And I said, have you thought about adoption? And then his eyes were opened. His eyes were open and he saw the light. Do you really think that's how it's gonna go? Like I said, do you really think that's how it's gonna go? Of course not. That is completely and utterly asininely stupid, right? I mean, the reality is, if you're dealing with somebody, they probably have thought about those things. And again, if those are off the table, like I say, if somebody says, no, we can't have kids, and they say, yeah, we can't have kids, we're trying to do the adoption thing, but X, Y, or Z, that means they put it on the table. It's part of the conversation. But if you try to force it in there, again, as I say, where is the win? How does this turn out so that you're not a complete and utter asshole? And again, now I know some of the little 14-year-olds are out there like, well, that's not nice. But it's true, right? You know, if you're adults and you're going about your life, you know, poking and prodding into areas where people seem to be glossing over or whatever, right? It's probably not going to get you to the place that you want to be. And so one of the things I want you to think about is when you go out and you start talking with people, ask yourself, before you ask the question, where is the win? How does this turn out well? Am I sure this question is going to turn out well? And if I'm not sure this question is going to turn out well, do I really need to ask a question? There's this old thing, like you never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. And again, like I say, when you're doing polite conversation, that's more or less what you do, because you don't want to get into the idiocies of actual adult life, right? Adult life is complicated. It's not complicated, it's convoluted as hell. Like, adult life is convoluted as hell. And, you know, people know they have problems. People know they have issues. People know they have phobias. People know they're probably doing things stupidly, right? And do they really need some jackass to go and start poking into it? And if some jackass does and come start poking into it, again, the question then becomes, are they going to want to keep having a conversation with you? Are they going to want to keep anything going? Or do they realize that you're just going to poke into things that are absolutely and utterly none of your business, and therefore they're not going to deal with you anymore? This is one of the nice things I like back in the days when I used to deal with more military folks, is I have to say, the one thing I love about military people is they understand the concept of need to know. They understand the concept of need to know. Because the greatest thing that I love when I'm talking with military people is if you're having a conversation and you're talking about something and then you end a sentence and then you don't keep talking anymore about it, they generally don't pry any further. If you're like, yep, I was going along doing all this stuff, and then I had some issues, and so I started doing something else. The thing that I like about military folks is they're not going to ask you what the hell those issues were. They're going to like, oh, you had issues. You glossed it over with the concept of the word issues, and then we can move on. Again, this whole thing of honesty versus transparency. Honesty is, I was going down this route, something happened, now I'm going down this different route. Again, do you really need to know that middle bit? Do you really need to dig deeply into that? Especially if you're not a family member, if you're not a best friend, if you're not any of that kind of stuff. But you see, a lot of people try to get into that stuff because it's their curiosity. Oh, I just need to know what happened there. And the problem is, like I say, from the other person's standpoint, is you have no need to know that. So if you don't have the propriety to shut the fuck up when you start moving into an area where you don't need to be moving into, they're just going to end the conversation and they're going to just stop talking about it. And this is something that's very important, especially, like I say, for young people, is they just don't know, especially in this modern world, like with social networking and all this kind of thing, they think like everything should be public knowledge, everything should be on the table. And the reality is, for most people don't want to put everything on the table. Most people don't want to be that obvious with how their life is, and that's just how it is. So if you keep pushing and you keep prodding in that direction, what's going to happen is they're just going to shut down. And most of the times, as I say, when people shut down, remember, I talked about that whole thing before about they get an impression of you. You know, they get a default view of how you are. And so if they get the default view of you don't know when to shut up, you don't know where the personal boundary lines are, then going forward, they're never going to talk with you. They're never going to have any candid conversations because they know you don't know when just to stop talking, when to stop asking questions, when to just let something go. So they're going to look at you, no, they'll talk about the weather, they'll talk about this, that, or the other thing, but they're not going to talk about any of those other things because you're just going to keep pushing. And again, who the hell wants to deal with that? And the issue that you run into in life is it's all those, again, success comes from all the squiggly areas. Success comes from, you know, these, again, everybody thinks it's about the MCSE and the CCNA and college degrees, and it's really about all of these other tangential issues. And if the people aren't willing to talk about it, then you run into problems. There's a lot of lessons that you can't learn. And so that's one of the things I want you folks to be thinking about. Like when you ask questions or when you're pushing somebody, question for you is where is the win? How do you come out of this in a successful scenario, or is the person just going to shut you down? So again, I am completely willing to use the band hammer. And again, after the video yesterday about the adoption thing, you know, I get all these snarky comments, and it's like, why in the world do you believe those snarky comments are acceptable? Again, you want to be snarky comment about my foot, my shoes. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Oh, you thought socks and sandals was bad with Tevas. Oh, hell no. This is old school. This is man styling right there. This is man fashion for you. And again, if you want to be snarky about my sandals and socks, okay, fine. I'm not going to banhammer you for being snarky over my sandals and socks. But again, if you're going to start giving me over talking about things like adoption or being honest, where I say, like I say, I know this about myself to be true. I connect with blood relations in a different way than I connect with non-blood relations. This is not a debate. This is not a question. This is not an argument. So if you get snarky and self-righteous about that, why do you think I'm not going to hit the band hammer? You're gone forever, right? Oh, but I should have, oh, shut the fuck up, right? Again, everybody's like, well, I should be. And again, it goes back to that whole respect issue. You keep pushing, and the other person, whether it's on YouTube, on the comment system, or just psychologically, they are going to hit the band hammer on you, right? So if you sit there and you keep pushing, and they're not willing to go there, they're just going to think, well, this person's an idiot. and I'm just not going to have any more conversations with them ever. So that's just something to be thinking about. And again, as I say, with the YouTube comments, again, YouTube comments are communication. When you leave a YouTube comment, the other person, the content creator, it gets flagged by us and we see it, and it is communication. If you act like an asshole, be prepared to get treated like an asshole. And again, like I say with that, like people are so shocked. They're like, oh, but you shouldn't do that. There's like this weird self-righteousness where people are like, oh, but I should be able to say or ask or do whatever I want, and you should just accept it. And again, if you're trying to get anywhere in life, that's not how it works. Right? People that have some power, people have some authority, they have the ability, again, they have the ability to ban hammer in the real world, or deal with people, or promote people, or, give people benefits based on their wants and their interests. If somebody annoys them, then it's completely within their ability to simply not give them anything that person wants. So this is one of those things to be thinking about. And so the whole concept of where's the win, basically this comes up for me because back when I was a teenager, again, as I say, I've had a weird life. And again, it's kind of like funny with my life, because when I say I have a weird life, I remember when I first heard the concept of what's called the adolescent ego. So back when I was doing psychology class in high school, they brought up the concept of the adolescent ego. The concept of the adolescent ego is the idea that all adolescents believe themselves to be special little snowflakes. But in reality, they're all basically the same. So I thought that was awesome. I was like, yes, I'm actually normal. Which was probably not the right response to that. So I looked at the adolescent ego, and I went, wow, I think that I'm different, but all adolescents think that they're different, which actually makes them all the same. So it means I'm normal. Yeah. Oh, that was a good fantasy for a while it lasted. But anyways, one of the weird things, like with my teenagerhood, is I had a good friend of mine who was a murderer. Yes, in fact, a murderer. Sorry about the goop there. But yeah, so when I was growing up, and when I was in, I guess I was high school at the time, one of our neighbors was a murderer. He had been down in Arkansas and killed a guy down there. Spent 5 years in prison, and then had moved up to Maryland, and so he was on probation when I met him. And the weird thing was, like in Arkansas, if you're on probation, you can't have guns. You can't have guns. When you go up to Maryland and you're on probation, you can't have guns or any kind of like deadly knives. So I got my first real weapons from a murderer. That's true, right? But anyways, so we talked about it because he was like 24 at the time. He had spent 5 years in prison. Murdered the guy when he was 18. Spent 5 years in prison, gotten out, and then fall in love or whatever, and followed this girl up to Maryland, and got to talk about things with him. Because again, however my life works, I wind up sitting down talking to all these random people. And again, all these random people are rather open with their lives. And so for him, basically how he had gone to jail and how he had killed the guy was he had been dating this girl when he was 18 years old. And the previous boyfriend of the girl, I guess, had been abusive. And so once she had dumped the old guy, and then this guy got in the picture, the old boyfriend is all screaming, yelling, bitching, moaning, complaining, acting like a complete and utter ass. And so my friend, being the strapping young 18-year-old that he was like, well, this can't hold. This is unacceptable, especially being Arkansas, southern boy, right? So he goes out, he gets himself a nice little firearm. Basically, the guy comes screaming, yelling, bitching, moaning, hollering, threatening violence and all that kind of stuff, and so ends up getting shot, ends up killing this ex-boyfriend, right? So he goes up. It's pretty obvious that he did it. He didn't even run or whatever. He gets arrested. He goes to court. Basically, he gets one of the manslaughters. And the reason he gets one of the manslaughters is being the South. it's every young man's right to carry a firearm around. And since the other guy was acting like a colossal dipshit, basically the jury decided that, it's kind of one of those things. The other guy's acting like a colossal dipshit, but we can't just have young 18-year-olds shooting each other when somebody else acts like a colossal dipshit. So we're going to give him one of the manslaughters. So one of the manslaughters basically gets him 5 years in prison. And then however many years in probation. I don't know how many. Like I say, when I knew him, he was on probation, right? So we got to talk to him about this, because, basically how that had happened, how did he feel about it, how it was prison. Prison sucks. Again, I think that's one of the things with my life, like why I've always been cautious about things, is I know, again, smart people learn from their mistakes. Wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So one of the reasons why I've always kept a rather straight angle is I talk with all the people that screw up in life and learn how they screwed up and then try to be wise about it and not do the same thing. So talking with them about prison and probation and all that. And basically all of it sucks. All of it sucks donkey balls. You want to stay away from it if possible. Right? There's just nothing good lays that way. So I started talking with him about it. And he was talking about, he's talking about this guy, and he talked about how it happened and all that kind of thing. And, so I asked him, I was like, well, if you had to do it again, if the same events were to transpire again, I mean, would you go into it the same way? And again, I'm not saying that you would pull the gun and shoot the guy, but like how would it be different? And it was really interesting talking with him, because he said basically it would completely be different. That essentially he would have just called the sheriff and had the law enforcement deal with it. And he really was really honest about it. Like this didn't feel like, a come to Jesus moment or something where he was in prison and Jesus came to him and he realized he shouldn't have pulled a gun. Like he wasn't Pollyanna-ish, he didn't have a problem with guns, and he really didn't even have that much of a problem with killing. Like, it wasn't that he had a problem with killing, it was just when he looked back at that situation, he looked at it and realized, as I would say, where is the win in this situation? Okay, so you have this abusive person going after your girlfriend. And the problem is after you pull a gun and you shoot the person, you're going to go to jail. So is that actually a win? Is that person is going to be dead? You're going to be in jail. So from the situation standpoint, from that 2-second standpoint, that person's an asshole, you shoot them. For that 2 seconds, you're a winner. For that 2 seconds, you're awesome, you're king of the hill, you showed that motherfuckers what's what. Right? But about 2 minutes later, when the police show up, everything else goes downhill. So you win the encounter, but the overall situation, again, gets you into prison. Girlfriend goes away, because... hey, 5 years in prison, she's not going to stick around. You go to prison, you got probation, you got all these other things going on. So I talked with him about it, and he basically said, it was a long time ago, but he talked about the different ways that he would have handled it. And again, not from a come to Jesus or Christian moment, just from a, there was no reason that it had to go that bad. That guy was abusive or whatever, but, right? And so that's what I want you folks to be thinking about whenever you're dealing with situations, and asking yourself, where is the win with this situation? And that's what I think most people don't do enough of, is they really don't think about where is this situation going? How is this going to turn out? How in the world is this going to turn out well, right? So if your boss calls you in, if your boss calls you in because there's some kind of a disciplinary action, right? The question is how is that going to turn out well in the future? Even if you can win this little encounter, does that mean the boss is going to care about you, right? So if you go in and there's a disciplinary issue and you look at it and you apologize and you do the thing, then in the future the boss or whatever will look at it and be like, okay, well that's a pretty decent person. Yeah, okay, maybe they made a mistake or whatever, but hey, yeah, let's give them a promotion. If you're dealing with a boss, and every time you deal with a boss, you have this authoritarian issue, or how dare that person think that they're going to do whatever to me, blah, 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 blah. And then the boss just keeps thinking about it. It's like, you know what? Every time I deal with this employee, they're a complete and utter asshole. Therefore, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about promotion, and as soon as the time for layoffs come, they'll be the first one on the chopping block. Now again, you may go in there, you may feel very good because you're like, yeah, I told the boss what's what. But at the end of the day, you know, if the first time layoffs come up, your name's at the top of the list, did you really win, right? Did you really win? Did you really become successful? And these are the things that I think people just don't think enough about. They get into these situations and they get so focused on the moment and they don't think about how is this going to end up in the long run, right? Where is this going to go? How am I going to win in this situation? Again, like I said, you know, I think about this a lot personally, being married. And there's a lot of arguments I do not have with my wife. There are a lot of arguments I do not have with my wife. Because we sit there and we're about to get into an argument, and then I think about it, I'm like, where's the win here? Again, even if I'm right, even if I theoretically win this argument, again, this is a woman that I have to spend the rest of my life with. So even if I win this theoretical argument, I don't have a feeling that it's going to go well past then. So is it really that big a problem to give up and acquiesce to certain things if it just basically keeps the boat going afloat and nice and level and whatever for a while longer, right? But again, I see that so much. People get very, very, very stuck in things. Again, like I said, that's where, you know, where's the win? The whole question of like, well, have you thought about it? Like, where is the out in that conversation? How do we come out of this conversation without it just spiraling into this stupidity? Now, you may be very curious. You may be like, but I want to know, Eli. I want to know how you feel about other people. And I want to know whether you'd adopt a Chinese person or a Ukrainian person or an American person. I want to know all these things. But here's the thing. At what point did I really say I want to go that far into talking about it? Right? These are real personal life issues for me. And again, I'm not overly proud of everything. I'm not overly happy with things. Again, there are things you come to terms with. Again, as you get older, there are things that you are proud of in life. There are things you are disappointed in life. And then there's things you just come to terms with. You just come to terms with a fact, and then you move on. You don't really want to argue about it. You don't want to discuss it. You don't want to get into pissing contests about it. This is how it is. Let's move on. Let's keep going. Know what I'm saying there? Know what I'm saying? A lot of people, like I say, they get all self-righteous. Rah! And again, at the end of the day, you can't do anything without anybody else. You know, this whole idea, like the Army used to have this motto, Army of One. I think that's like where the millennials really went downhill. I think the millennials went downhill with the U.S. Army, the Army of One, because that's the most stupid concept I've ever heard in my life. You can't do anything as one. Nothing in this world is done as one. It's all a group activity. And so again, the more people are willing to talk with you, the more people are willing to deal with you, the more people are willing to interact with you, the easier your life is going to go. And the more open they are, the more honest and even transparent they will be, so that you get to learn all these weird little lessons in life. But again, if you keep pushing on them, you keep hammering, you keep saying, but my ego is what is most important, well, then you're going to get shut down. Because again, like when you're dealing with it, right? So that would be my thought there. That would be my thought for you folks. Where is the win? Where is the win? So like I say, if you're at a job and the job really sucks, and again, you hate your boss and the job sucks, and you're like, I want to quit. Again, the question there is where is the win? Okay, so you quit right now, but you don't have another job to go into. You don't have any place to go. You don't know how you're going to pay the bills. So by quitting the job, is that really a win? Is that really success? Or do you start being a little more adult about it and you start thinking, okay, well, I don't like the job. I don't like the situation. How can I manage? How can I get through this? How can I start putting out my resumes now and doing that type of thing? All right. So all these kinds of things to be thinking about. All these kinds of things to be thinking about as you walk in your super cool sandals. Yeah, that's right. This is how cool Eli is. This is how much I just don't give a damn. White socks and sandals. That's right. You said, how cool is Eli? That is how cool. With an orange shirt on. With an orange shirt on. Oh, I think I had a better spiel for Where's the Wind. But that's the spiel you got today. Maybe we'll do another spiel on Where's the Wind in another year or something. Oh, I've just been tired. We've been doing all this exercising. We've been doing all this hiking. Then, like I say, like yesterday, after we did like 10 or 11 miles of hiking, then I had the guy come and have to start thinking and talking with that person about their life experiences. Like 7:30 at night they came over. Oh, I'll tell you, for traveling around and screwing off, it can make you tired. It can make your brain tired. I actually went out. I was gonna do a video last night, and like I was walking down the road to do the video. Like I walked for like 5 minutes. It's kind of funny, like when I do there's all these outtakes that you folks will never see because they simply get deleted. And it is kind of weird. Like I say, like when I am in the zone, when I'm in the talking zone, I can just sit here and talk and talk and talk and talk and go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. But then like when I'm not in the zone, like yesterday, I was just sitting there and I was talking for like 5 minutes. And then I like got to the end of a sentence and they just like stared in the camera. I was like, I don't have anything else to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to say next. So I am going to stop talking. I stopped talking yesterday. So I didn't do the video yesterday, but I am doing the video today. Oh, this is gorgeous. This is what I'm talking about. Way back when I made that bet, when I made the bet with the one that shall not be named, this, my friends, this is the life. This is the life I was talking about. Just strolling along. It's like 72 degrees right now, sunny, perfect amount of humidity. You got all the birds, you got all the critters running around. It was beautiful yesterday. We were walking along Bear Run Wilderness area, or Bear Run, something or other around here. And it was amazing. I have never seen this before in my life. It was just awesome. So we're walking down this trail, and then I stop, and I swear to you, 3 feet to my left-hand side, there was just this doe in the grass. So a baby deer, just this tiny baby deer. It's like the size of a corgi. And it's just sitting there, it's just laying there, like in the grass, and his little eyeballs are like looking up at me, blinking. It didn't seem to be in pain. I think that must have been where it's deer mommy or whatever, mommy deer left it. It was like the most amazing thing. You just sit there and it's just the most adorable little deer. I so wanted to pet it, but then my wife started like haranguing me to leave it alone so that the mother would come back. So but no, this is great. Way back when, like a month and a half ago, when I was being all cocky, this right here, this is what I had in mind. Absolutely great. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do tomorrow. We're gonna go hiking somewhere else. Falling Water is around here. The only thing is with Falling Water is Frank Lloyd Wright. Yeah, Frank Lloyd Wright's like big famous house that he built. It's the one that's like over that waterfall. So that's like right around here. Like we go past it whenever we leave this place. The only thing is apparently in order to see Falling Water, you have to do a tour. And I just don't want to do a tour. Like I really want to see Falling Water, but I have zero interest in a tour. Because like these tours are so obnoxious, right? I mean, you get like a good-hearted person, but then, you know, they spend an hour and a half. They're a bit like me, only a lot more boring, right? They spend an hour and a half to tell you what you could have figured out in like 10 minutes. And they just slowly drag you along on a tour. It's like, you know, I will pay the $15 just to take 10 minutes and walk through the house. I really don't need the hour and a half tour. I really don't. Because it's funny, like with tours too. Like tours are good, like if you really care about something. Like if we were gonna go like the Vatican, I'd like to take a Vatican tour, or the Louvre, like something like really impressive and really cool. Like we did a Biltmore tour. And the Biltmore tour is just this huge, massive house down in Asheville, North Carolina. Definitely go to the Biltmore, take a Biltmore tour. Just mind-bogglingly awesome. And I mean, it's just so huge, and it's so just large beyond belief. you really need a tour to be able to make sense of like what the hell you're even seeing. It's just so like, I mean, because that's when you realize how rich the old rich people were. Like literally, you were looking at this house and your brain really can't figure out exactly what it's seeing. It's like you go through like this long hallway and that's like all the maid's room. I mean, it's just this massive beyond belief. So like something like that is worth a tour. But like something like, I don't know, like these little things, like say falling water, I really don't care. It's like, you know, some rich people had Frank Lloyd Wright build this thing. They lived in it 60 years, and then they turn it into a museum. There's just nothing that I see here. There's nothing there that's like, oh, I need to know that history. I need to know what's going on there. It's like apparently it's good architecture. So I want to see the architecture, and then I want to go home. I don't need to be told about the architecture. That's one thing like with a lot of these tours too, is they tell you like why you should be impressed. Again, it's one of those funny things I find with all the kinds of art stuff, is I think, my less than humble opinion with art, is that you should be moved by art on your lonesome, right? Or not moved, right? Like when you look at the art, it should move you in a direction. You should say, wow, that does X, Y, or Z to me. You should not have to have it explained to you. I mean, unless you really want. I mean, if you're an art student or if you're an architecture or historian or something, hey, fine, do the tour. But like with most of it, it either moves you or you feel it's important or it doesn't. You don't need an hour and a half explanation as to why it does whatever. But anyway, so I don't know if we'll see falling water. My wife kind of wants to see falling water. And again, it's kind of like one of those, the arguments I don't really care about having. Like she really is like, Eli, we need to see falling water. I'm not a huge fan of the idea, but I'm not going to argue about it too much. On the other hand, if she doesn't want to see falling water, I think I'm probably fine without seeing falling water. I don't know. I just don't want to do this tour. Oh, those tours are so boring. So boring, even as an adult. I think that's one of the funny things, like kids don't understand. Like kids think, again, that's a funny thing, like when you're a 14-year-old, you think like when you're 40, like all the stuff suddenly makes sense. And what you realize when you're 40 is no. It's just, you kind of force yourself to do these things you think you're supposed to do. I am supposed to want to do this artistic tour, and therefore I will do this artistic tour, even though I'm literally as bored as I would have been when I'm 14 years old. That's the main thing. That's the main difference. Is you do, when you're older, you do what you think you're supposed to do. And again, if you've been following these vlogs for any amount of time, the entire point of this entire vlog series is to say, I'm tired of that crap. I'm not going to do what people tell me I'm supposed to do. I'm just gonna start doing what I want to do. And we are gonna see how that works out for me. Oh, this is gorgeous. This is gorgeous. Like, look at this. And again, you can come here, you can get your cheap little RV trailer, you can park it here for $2,300 a year, and you too can have your own nice little vacation home with a pool and everything. That's very good, very good. I do have to say, I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot. So we'll be here for another few days. And then we'll be off to Luray, Virginia on Tuesday. So it is, it's Friday right now. So Tuesday we'll be off to Luray, Virginia. And then we'll go off to, people are loud. People are so loud at these places. We'll off to Luray, Virginia, and then after that we'll go down to the Smoky Mountains, and then we'll go back home until we go off on our next expedition. I've really been talking with my wife. I really like this. I really like life on the road. So I don't know, there's that whole question about like when are we gonna sell the house? I have to tell you what, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to just really wanting to sell the house. Like, if she agrees to live on the road until we figure out a place to live, I think I'd be up for selling the house then, because we can sell the house, then we can put all this stuff in storage, and then we can just travel around for a year or two or however long until we find the place that we really want to live, and then we can settle down. My big problem with selling the house really isn't selling the house at this point. So like when we left, we left last year in the RV and the trailer. I was really about the edge of having like a nervous breakdown at that point. And like, I just hated the house. I just hated everything. It was just like, this is all just fucked up 9 ways from Sunday. This is not how life was supposed to go. And so I felt bad then, because I really didn't feel like I was at peace with the house, right? You know, there's doing things when you're at peace, when you're comfortable, and then doing things just because you hate the world. And so I was more like in that hate the world thing. But then we've come back, and I feel like I've come to peace with the house. It's not that I hate the house anymore. It's not that the house makes me angry. Like I say, it's just too big for what we need. But the problem is, the big problem, and that's what you get into as an adult, is it's not simply about what you don't want. It's also as big a question of what you want, right? So if we sell the house, then the question is, where do you go next? Because when you sell a house, you know, you have to pay for the commission for the real estate agent. There's closing costs. There's all these fees. It's actually pretty damn expensive to sell a house. And so you pay all of that, and then you don't want to dump that money just into another place that you're then gonna sell in a year or two. So I think that's the bigger question I have, like with our house, is more that whole idea of like that what is the next. It's not so much the selling the house, it's what's after that. So I'm trying to convince my wife that we should just be in the travel trailer for like a year or two until we can figure out where we really want to be. Because I'm just really not sure where we want to be, like, permanently. I think that's a weird thing. Like, we're in our marriage right now, and that's the thing. Like, I really would like to not be somewhere permanently for a while. I just don't like the whole permanent thing. Wake up every day in the exact same place, looking at the exact same scenery, looking at the same people. I like this whole thing. You wake up in the morning, you're like, looks like it's gonna rain today. Let's go a couple of states away where it's not rainy. That seems like a good option for me. I think that's what I want to do. I don't know. We shall see, though. That's the thing, when you're married. Oh, when you're married, you no longer get to make individual decisions. There's a lot of good things with marriage. The one thing with marriage, though, is it's like you do not make decisions anymore. It's always mutual decisions. And what you find out is no matter how well you are matched with the other person, you know, there's all these, you know, because I think my wife would just be very happy with finding a very warm place and living. Like, I think if I said, let's sell the house and buy a condo in Miami, I think she would say, like, yes, before I even, like, got finished with the Miami. But, do not know what will happen in life. But anyways, we're getting up to about the 57-minute mark. Oh, I didn't show you folks the place I wanted to show you today. Anyways, there's too many people, so we may not get to show you that area. So before, when we were walking that way, there's this whole area where people have put in like fences and everything. It's really kind of cool and just shows you how permanent things are here. And yeah, this is the life. It really is. I say, I know it seems weird. Like when I first saw this, the first time we ever pulled into an RV park, again, I kind of had that thought in my head of like, what the hell are we doing? But you know, the more you do it, the more things seem normal. I think that's also an important thing to understand in life. Is like whenever you see something new for the first time, it seems strange. But then the more you're around it, the more it just starts to seem normal. Like I say, for me, like I look at these and they all just look like houses now. Like the way that you would look at a row house or a Victorian, I can go, oh, that's a travel trailer. Oh, that's a fifth wheel, right? But yeah, look at that. They've done all this beautiful. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, look at all that work. I have never seen stuff like that before. That's just really nice. Look at that. You wouldn't even think about doing that. I would not even think about doing that. Then they got the little houses here. Like I say, I think I showed you guys this before. These are the little Breckenridges. But again, it's a thing to think about, like I say. And everybody has this idea of you have to do things the way everybody else does it. But again, the question that I have, that the whole idea of fail normal, is I think the way everybody else does it kind of sucks. But when you look at that, I mean, you can buy that whole thing. Like that whole Breckenridge right there. I think brand new, one of those things, off the lot costs like $45,000. So you grab that thing. It's his own little self-contained house. You grab that thing. You have them deliver it for a couple $1,000s. drop it off to wherever you want, and you have everything you need for a pittance, for not very much money. Because again, if you drop it off in some place like here, $2,300 a year for ground rent, which is like $200. Was it two? No, it's less than $200 a month. And you got a nice little yard. You can plant little trees and shrubs and all that kind of stuff. They've got decent internet access here. All kinds of goodness. All kinds of goodness. But anyways, I suppose that is all I have to say for the day. We're not quite back at the travel trailer yet, but my mind is basically done. My mind is cooked, and I've been talking here for about an hour. So that's good. I gave you folks a full-fledged hour for your taking the time to watch a little 15-second commercial. So I think that comes out. It's all equal. But I just want you to think about, like I say, where's the win? How is the situation going to end up going well? Because again, like I say, now, I mean, people may go like, oh, you're being snarky or you're being negative. Like people have been like, oh, you're so negative with this whole adoption thing. But again, that really is my real opinion. Again, as I say, like with these videos, I may be melodramatic, but I don't try to exaggerate. Again, exaggeration is a form of lying. And if I start lying to you folks, then what the hell am I doing here? Again, honesty, even if there's not transparency. And so I don't even exaggerate. I may get a little melodramatic, but I don't exaggerate. And again, like I say, this whole thing, whenever everybody brings up the whole, well, have you thought about adoption? And that's where I want folks to think about. Like, is this an appropriate question for you to be asking anybody, to be honest with you? Because I have to say, like I say with the whole adoption question, it's tedious as hell, even with parents. Like, even with parents and even with blood relations, it's a tedious discussion. It's a tedious, obnoxious discussion. Because again, there's just all this stuff, and people don't like to deal with reality, and people don't like to, they have these ideas of who you are, and they have these ideas about how the world should be, and they have their own insecurities, and they have their own problems, and they have all this stuff. And so, like I say, with things like adoption, they dump all of that onto you, and then you got to deal with it. And so if it's obnoxious with blood relations and all that, imagine how it is for complete strangers. So again, if you're going out to the bar talking with somebody, they're talking about the things that they're doing, what I want you to think about is it really wise for you to push the conversation along in that particular direction? Because again, like I say, I mean, I don't know, like whenever I deal with folks on YouTube, it amazes me like what milquetoast, Wonder Bread, corn-fed folks are out there. Apparently, none of you folks have like dealt with anything real in the world, right? But I mean, like I say, for a lot of people that have dealt with real stuff, like for somebody like me, I mean, again, as I say, I've dealt with PTSD, like real PTSD, the nasty PTSD, the whole type of thing where like your hand always knows where a weapon is, the whole thing with you wake up in the middle of the night and your entire mattress is just soaked with sweat, like not just night sweat, it's soaked. And so the problem is, like I say, is when you deal with real things in real life, there are just these complicated issues that you don't want to go into with just anybody, with any random people. Again, it's not that you haven't come to terms with it. It's not that you haven't accepted the things with reality. It's not that you haven't moved on. But again, why do you want to go into that stuff? And again, like I say, there's so many, again, for anybody that's been out there in the real world, there's so many complicated issues. Again, like I say, like if you own a business and you have to fire employees, if you're at the bar and you're talking with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, why are you drinking? And it's like, fuck, I just had to lay off 10 employees. You know what? That boss doesn't want to go get into a philosophical discussion about whether the employees are worth more than a summer vacation, or worth more than this, or worth more than that, or worth more than that. It's what they had to do. They had to make the call. They made the call. This is their reality. They don't want to get in a conversation about it. And so if you push, let's say if you push with your own ego, with your own thing, then they're going to shut down. Whereas I would argue, if you want to get ahead in life, if you want to be successful, you just allow them to talk. You allow them to say whatever it is that they want to say. and just move on, accept it. Everybody knows you have an ego. We all know. Again, as I say, it's always funny. People are like, oh, Eli has the ego. Eli is so arrogant. And then I see like what people do in the real world. And I'm like, I would never do that. I would never do that. That's just a colossally dickish move. Like, how is it I'm the one with the horrible arrogance and ego, and yet I would never pull half the crap a lot of these people pull. But anyways, just another thought for the day. Just another thought. But something to think about. Like I say, is that really the path? Where is the way? And that's the thing to be thinking about. Like when you're talking with somebody, when you're dealing with other people, ask, how is this gonna go? How is this going to end up being a good situation? And I think if you think about that before you dive in, you'll realize it's probably not going to go very well. And so maybe you should just kill it now. If you just kill it now, and everything will be fine. You know, you keep pushing, and you'll end up pushing the damn thing off the cliff. But that is my rather rambling thought. So with that, we will call it a day. And I guess I'll talk to you folks tomorrow. Or I'll talk to the camera tomorrow. Yeah, anyways. This whole time thing. I'm really thinking about this whole time thing. Kyle Morgan is like, tell me what the $1 billion idea is. So I'm trying to figure out what the $1 billion idea is. So I can tell him to go do it and get my 1%. See, that's what you do. That's what you really want to be successful in life. You do the whole Elon Musk thing. You know what would change the world? What's that? Hyperloop. Are you gonna build Hyperloop? No, you shall. But then all these people are out there doing all this work, and yet whenever Hyperloop comes up, it's like the idea that Elon Musk has. It's like, wait a minute. He basically had an idea. He threw the concept out there. All these other poor schmucks are building the damn thing. Huh. That's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be Elon Musk. Eli, what do you want to be when you grow up? Elon Musk. I want to throw out ideas, and if other people do them, and then get the credit for it. I think that would be awesome. Anyways, now I'm just going off on a tangent. So with that, we'll call it a day, and see you folks, I don't know, whenever.